Lost child gets harshly yelled at by police in the middle of a crowded street. Frightened, alone, and accused of something he didn't do, he stands there in tears, while bystanders watch in silence. Just when the situation turns aggressive, a brave black girl steps forward and shields him, demanding respect and protection for the boy, unaware that the child she just defended is the only son of the most powerful and feared Korean mafia boss. By nightfall, the city will never be the same. The kid didn't just cry. He howled, a raw, guttural sound ripped from a throat too small, echoing between the brick walls as a cop, badge gleaming, face contorted, towered over him. And then, there she was, a flicker of defiance, a young black girl stepping forward, a shield against the inevitable, utterly oblivious she was protecting the city's most dangerous secret, the sole heir to a Korean mafia kingpin's brutal throne. This wasn't some isolated incident, a random clash in a forgotten alley. This was a mirror. This was you. You think you saw a simple street drama unfold. A moment of injustice, a hero, a villain. But here's the uncomfortable truth you're desperately trying to avoid. What truly happened that day wasn't about a child, a girl, or a cop. It was a raw, visceral manifestation of humanity's collective Jungian shadow playing out in neon and concrete, a grotesque ballet of our own unacknowledged darkness projected onto unwitting actors. Every single one of them was merely dancing with their own hidden self. Don't kid yourself. You do it constantly. You project your unaddressed fears, your suppressed aggressions, your unlived possibilities onto the world outside your skull. We all do. This street corner, this screaming kid, this defiant girl, this enraged officer, they were simply canvases for what we refuse to see within ourselves. The police officer, fueled by what? Authority? A perceived threat? Or was it the festering wound of his own impotence, his own subjugation to an uncaring system, now given permission to exert absolute control over someone smaller, weaker, more vulnerable? He saw not a child, but a problem, a defiance, a challenge to his very identity, an echo of every time he felt powerless. He was lashing out at his own shadow. Look closer. The young girl, brave, protective, beautiful. But what was she truly defending? Was it just the boy? Or was it the echoes of her own innocence, trampled, ignored, abused, now finding a voice, a physical manifestation, a chance to fight back against the faceless forces that had once overwhelmed her? She saw a victim, yes, but perhaps also a reflection of her own unavenged vulnerability. Pure instinct, noble, but an outward projection nonetheless. And the boy? The supposed victim, screaming, tiny, vulnerable. He was no lamb. He was a wolf cub, an apex predator in miniature, carrying a lineage soaked in blood and power, destined for a darkness most of us can barely comprehend. His tears, his cries, were they truly just terror? Or were they the desperate, primal scream of someone who knew deep down the monstrous power he wielded represented, yet was temporarily helpless, an echo of the fragility that even the most powerful cannot escape? He embodies the ultimate deception, the innocent facade concealing a horrifying reality. This is the shadow's favorite trick: masquerade, disguise. If the surface narrative scratches an itch you can't quite reach, if you suspect there's always a deeper, darker current flowing beneath the stories we tell ourselves, then stick around. This is where we pull back the curtain on the real show. We live in a world obsessed with blame, with finding the bad guy out there. This cop, that system, her naivete, his hidden identity. We point fingers, we rage, we demand justice, all while diligently avoiding the most crucial, most terrifying confrontation of all, the one with our own interior landscape. The police officer's rage wasn't just about the child. It was his shadow self dictating the terms. The girl's fierce protectiveness wasn't just altruism. It was her shadow self seeking redemption. The boy's vulnerability, his terror, wasn't just fear. It was his shadow self momentarily exposed before the inevitable embrace of his inherited power. You see, the street corner was merely a stage. The real drama, the eternal battle, unfolds within the unlit chambers of your own psyche. You are the architect of your perceptions. You are the projector. And what you project, what you choose to see, always, always reveals more about you than about the world outside. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is psychology, brutal and unforgiving. This is truth. What is your truth then? What narratives are you clinging to? Perhaps you see the world as a battlefield, good versus evil, a clear line drawn in the sand. Maybe you believe some people are just born bad, or that circumstances are insurmountable, that you're simply a victim of forces beyond your control. Stop lying to yourself. That's a comfort blanket, a warm, fuzzy delusion you wrap around your inability to confront the monster in the mirror. Because the monster isn't out there. It's never been out there. The external world, your boss, your partner, the politician you despise, the stranger who cuts you off in traffic, they are merely actors on a stage you built yourself, playing roles assigned by your unacknowledged fears, your suppressed desires, your unhealed wounds, every single one of them. You see, the truth is, we are all projectors. Each breath we take, each judgment we cast, each emotion we feel about them is a mirror reflecting a hidden piece of us. You hate injustice? Good. But where in your own life have you been unjust, even subtly? Where have you allowed an imbalance of power to persist because it was convenient or because it kept you safe? You rail against hypocrisy? Excellent. But when was the last time your public persona perfectly aligned with your private thoughts? We all wear masks. We all perform. The difference isn't whether you have a shadow. We all do. The difference is whether you have the guts, the sheer raw courage to look at it, to turn the flashlight inward into those dusty, forgotten corners of your own being, where the real demons, the real angels, the real power resides. This isn't just about self-help fluff. This is about reclaiming your sovereignty. This is about understanding the fundamental mechanics of your reality. And if you're ready to abandon the comfortable lies for the brutal clarity of self-awareness, if you're prepared to dive headfirst into the abyss of your own soul to emerge stronger, then you belong here. Consider joining this journey. Because here's the kicker. The shadow isn't just dark. It's also the repository of your unexpressed potential, your strength, your creativity, your wildness. Everything you've been taught to repress, to tame, to hide away because it was too much or not acceptable. Society, in its infinite wisdom, demands conformity. It sculpts us, clips our wings, then wonders why we can't fly. But those parts, those raw, untamed aspects, they don't just disappear. They fester. They whisper from the depths. They manifest as anxiety, as sudden outbursts, as that inexplicable feeling of being unfulfilled, even when everything is fine. Everything isn't fine. You are a divided kingdom, and the civil war is raging just beneath the surface of your polite smiles. What does it mean to dance with your shadow? It's not some fluffy, feel-good affirmation. It's a brutal, relentless excavation. It's peeling back the carefully constructed layers of your ego, the charming facade, the intellectual defenses, the moral superiority you wrap yourself in, and finding the raw, pulsating core of who you truly are, not who you pretend to be for your parents, your friends, your Instagram feed. This process, this descent into the underworld of your own psyche, is precisely what nearly every ancient myth, every spiritual tradition, every profound philosophical school has pointed towards. Yet, in our sanitized, surface-level culture, we've forgotten it. We've outsourced our heroism to movie screens, our wisdom to self-help gurus, our very being to the opinions of strangers. What a pathetic tragedy. What a profound betrayal of your own potential. You think you know yourself? I seriously doubt it. You know the story you tell yourself about yourself. You know the edited highlights reel. But what about the moments of ugly jealousy you instantly rationalize away? The flashes of contempt for someone weaker? The dark fantasies of revenge you dismiss as just thoughts? Those aren't just thoughts. Those are the voice of your unacknowledged shadow, screaming for attention, begging for integration. Every impulse you label bad and push down, every emotion you deem unacceptable and bury alive, gains power in the darkness. It doesn't disappear, it metastasizes, it builds an army. And then, when you least expect it, or often when you can least afford it, it erupts. It becomes the sudden, inexplicable outburst that destroys a relationship. It becomes the self-sabotage that derails your career. It becomes the chronic anxiety that poisons your peace. It becomes the very world you perceive around you, a world filled with the very monsters you refuse to face within. Consider the collective shadow. This isn't just individual psychology. This is geopolitics. This is history repeating its blood-soaked cycles. What is war, truly, but the catastrophic projection of unintegrated aggression, fear and greed onto an external enemy? What is systemic injustice, if not the collective shadow of a dominant group, unwilling to acknowledge its own capacity for oppression, cruelty, and exploitation, instead demonizing the other as the source of all problems? We build walls, both physical and metaphorical, not to keep them out, but to keep our own unacknowledged darkness from flooding back in. Every dictator, every tyrant, every demagogue throughout history was merely a grand-scale projector, reflecting back the collective shadows of a fearful, unexamined populace. They were, and are, the terrifying mirror society refuses to look into. The problem, you see, isn't that evil exists. It does. But the real problem is our steadfast refusal to acknowledge its potential within ourselves. We create an external scapegoat, a convenient villain, because it's infinitely easier than admitting that the seeds of every atrocity, every betrayal, every act of pure malevolence lie dormant in the rich, fertile soil of the human heart. Your heart, my heart. This isn't pessimism. This is brutal realism. This is the necessary prerequisite for any genuine transformation, individual or collective. Without this acknowledgement, we are doomed to repeat the same cycles, forever trapped in a dance of blame and retribution, never understanding the real source of the choreography. Now pause for a moment. Feel that resistance? That urge to dismiss this as too cynical, too dark, too uncomfortable? Good. That's your ego, your self-preservation mechanism, fighting back. It hates being challenged. It loathes the idea of relinquishing control. It wants you to stay small, stay safe, stay ignorant. It whispers comforting lies. You're a good person. You don't have those dark impulses. It's them. But listen closely to that whisper. Is it really protecting you? Or is it keeping you from your true power, your true self? The self that is capable of both immense darkness and incandescent light. The truly liberated individual isn't the one who denies their shadow. It's the one who has faced it, wrestled with it, understood its language, and integrated its raw energy. They become whole. They become formidable. They become dangerous. Not because they inflict harm, but because they are immune to manipulation. They see through the deceptions, both external and internal. They recognize the projections for what they are, not truth, but merely reflections. And in that recognition lies an incredible freedom. You are no longer swayed by the carefully constructed narratives, the moral panics, the emotional blackmail that others, often unconsciously, attempt to wield against you. You know yourself. And knowing yourself, truly, deeply, is the ultimate armor. It's the ultimate weapon. Perhaps you're thinking, this sounds exhausting. This sounds painful. You're right, it is. It's the hardest work you will ever do. It demands courage that most people will never muster. But what's the alternative? Living a life of quiet desperation? Being perpetually reactive to a world you don't understand because you refuse to understand the inner workings of your own mind? Being a puppet on strings pulled by unseen forces within your own subconscious? That, my friend, is the true pain. That is the real exhaustion. The exhaustion of constantly running from yourself. This isn't just about introspection. This is about discernment. When you witness the chaos on the news, the outrage online, the petty squabbles in your own life, you develop an X-ray vision. You start to see beyond the surface narrative. You identify the projection. You spot the unacknowledged shadow driving the behavior. The politician ranting about the moral decay of society. You see his own unexamined hypocrisy. The influencer preaching self-love while subtly shaming anyone who doesn't conform to their curated image. You see their own profound self-disgust. It's everywhere. Once you truly grasp this mechanism, you can't unsee it. It changes everything. Your entire perception of reality warps, shifts, and then reforms into something sharper, more lucid, infinitely more complex, and utterly terrifying. And what about the desire for redemption? The longing for absolution? We often seek it externally, through good deeds, through public apology, through religious ritual. But true redemption is an internal alchemy. It's not about erasing your shadow. It's about transforming it. It's about taking that raw energy, that destructive impulse, and consciously redirecting it towards creation, towards service, towards genuine self-expression. The anger that could burn down a relationship can, when integrated, fuel an unstoppable drive for justice. The fear that paralyzes can, when faced, become the wellspring of profound empathy. The lust for power, when understood, can be transformed into the power to lead, to inspire, to build, rather than to dominate or destroy. The very traits you've been conditioned to despise within yourself are not inherently bad. They are simply unrefined, untamed, unconscious. This path, the path of shadow integration, is the only one that leads to true personal freedom, and, by extension, to any hope of collective evolution. Any other path is simply rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. We can reform systems, we can protest injustices, we can demand accountability, but until we individually and collectively confront the monsters within, the external problems will simply morph, reemerge, and persist in new, equally destructive forms. The problem is not the systems. The problem is the unexamined human heart that creates the systems. And that is the inconvenient, undeniable, horrifying truth. It is a truth that demands courage. It demands honesty. It demands a willingness to dismantle everything you thought you knew about yourself and the world. It's a messy, often lonely journey. But on the other side? On the other side is genuine power. Not power over others, but power within yourself. The power to choose, the power to create, the power to respond consciously, rather than react unconsciously. The power to be truly, irrevocably yourself. Flaws and all, light and shadow, whole. If you've stuck with me this far, through the uncomfortable truths and the brutal honesty, if you feel that gnawing sensation of recognition, then you're one of the few. You're part of the awakening. This isn't just a video. It's a call to arms. If you understand the profound implications of what we've discussed, if you're ready to peel back the final layers of deception and step into your full, integrated self, then this is your community. This is where we dissect the illusions and build something real. Consider subscribing and joining the growing legion of those who dare to look within. Let's talk about the cultural implications of this suppression. We live in a society that fetishizes positive vibes, toxic positivity, where vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, and strength is equated with emotional stoicism. This relentless pursuit of goodness, this forced cheerfulness, isn't just misguided. It's profoundly dangerous, because it drives the shadow deeper underground. It makes us masters of repression. We become experts at smiling through the pain, at projecting an image of perfection, all while the internal pressure cooker builds to an explosive degree. We teach our children to be nice, to be polite, to suppress their anger, their aggression, their natural healthy boundaries. And then we wonder why they lash out, why they self-harm, why they feel perpetually disconnected. We built the cage, we painted it a pretty color, then we locked them in, and we locked ourselves in right alongside them. The great lie is that you can have light without darkness. You can't. It's an energetic law. The more you deny one side of the equation, the more distorted and destructive it becomes. Your shadow isn't something to be eradicated. It's something to be understood, to be integrated. It's the rich, fertile soil from which your most profound growth can spring. Imagine a gardener who only waters the flowers, never tending to the roots, never acknowledging the dark earth beneath. The garden will wither. Your soul will wither. You will become a fragile, two-dimensional caricature of the magnificent, multifaceted being you were always meant to be. This is not hyperbole. This is reality. This constant push for outward achievement, for external validation, for accumulating status symbols, it's all a frantic, desperate attempt to fill a void that can only be filled internally. It's an endless chase after a ghost, because the actual treasure, the real source of fulfillment, lies buried within your own unexamined depths. You buy the car, get the promotion, find the perfect partner, and for a fleeting moment, you feel something akin to satisfaction. Then, the void reappears. It always does, because you're trying to solve an internal problem with external solutions. You're trying to bandage a spiritual wound with material possessions. It never works. It can't. This is the fundamental error of modern existence. This is the trap. And most people die in it, never even realizing the bars were made of their own unacknowledged fears. So, where do we go from here? We go inward. We go deep. We stop pretending. We stop running. We stop blaming. We stop demanding that the world conform to our comforting illusions. Instead, we demand that we conform to reality, to the brutal, beautiful, terrifying reality of who we are in our entirety. We reclaim our shadow. We embrace our totality. We become whole. Not perfect, never perfect, but whole. And in that wholeness, there is an unshakable peace, a profound power, a quiet, unyielding strength that cannot be taken from you because it arises from within. It's the only true sanctuary you will ever find. It's the only real revolution. It begins with you. It ends with you. But it demands you start. Right now. The boy from the street corner, the wolf cub, destined for shadow and power. He will inherit a world sculpted by those who refuse to look inward. His future will be a reflection of the collective's unexamined past. Will he embrace his shadow fully, consciously? Or will he, like so many before him, become its unwitting puppet? Only time will tell, but his journey and yours are inextricably linked. For in every individual's choice to confront their inner darkness or to shy away, the fate of the world is subtly, powerfully, undeniably forged. There is no escape from this truth, no bypass, only confrontation, only integration, only transformation, or eternal recurrence. The choice stares you down. What will you do? You'll flinch, of course you will. The mirror isn't kind. It shows you the parts you meticulously hide, the jealousy, the rage, the festering resentment, the cowardice, the weakness you project onto others. We all have them, every single one of us. And we spend entire lifetimes building elaborate defenses, intricate narratives, just to avoid that gut-wrenching confrontation. We blame the economy, we blame the government, we blame our parents, our partners, the alignment of the stars, anything, anyone, but ourselves. This is not just avoidance, it's a global pandemic of self-deception. It cripples progress, it fuels conflict, it ensures the same mistakes repeat, generation after generation, simply wearing different costumes. Think for a moment. All those grand political battles, the culture wars that tear families apart? They are not, at their core, about policy or principle. No, they are glorified shadow boxing, collective projections of individual inadequacies, fears, and unexamined darkness. You despise a certain group because they embody traits you loathe in yourself, traits you deny owning. That's the brutal truth. We turn others into monsters so we don't have to face the monster within. This is why true change feels impossible. This is why peace remains an elusive dream. We're attacking symptoms, always. Never the root. The root, you see, is in us, in our unintegrated selves. Now consider the boy, the wolf cub. He's not born evil. He's born impressionable. He learns from the collective unconscious, from the echoes of unaddressed trauma. He sees the world divide itself, project its own internal demons outwards, and he internalizes it. He absorbs the fear, the anger, the tribalism. And unless he himself breaks the cycle, he will perpetuate it. He will become another link in the chain, another soldier in the shadow wars. This isn't just a metaphor. This is the operating system of reality. The comfortable lie is easier, always. It says, just fix the external world, create more laws, allocate more resources, punish the bad guys. Simple, neat, utterly, tragically ineffective, because the bad guys are merely externalized fragments of a collective shadow. You can lock them up, you can defeat them on a battlefield, but the shadow, that persistent, primal force, it will simply find a new host, a new face, a new ideology. It's a hydra. Cut off one head, two more grow in its place, because you're not cutting the source, never the source. The path inward? It's a descent, a long, often terrifying journey into your own personal underworld. You will face your demons, your repressed desires, your forgotten traumas, the parts of you society deemed unacceptable, ugly, dangerous. You will feel shame. You will feel regret. You will feel a loneliness so profound it will chill you to your core. This is not for the faint of heart. This is not self-help fluff. This is serious work. It's soul mining, it's excavation. But there is no other way to build something real, something lasting. You think you're strong. You think you're resilient? You haven't truly tested yourself until you've stood face to face with your own darkest impulses, not to conquer them, but to understand them, to sit with them, to acknowledge their existence within you, to integrate them. This isn't about becoming good. It's about becoming whole. A complete human being, capable of conscious choice, not merely reacting from woundedness or unexamined programming. That's liberation. That's true power. Most people recoil. They prefer the illusion of control, the comfort of ignorance. They'd rather live in a gilded cage, screaming at shadows on the wall, than step into the raw, liberating truth of their own being. They choose comfortable delusion over agonizing authenticity. It's a tragic trade, a life unlived, a potential unrealized. And the cost? It's not just personal. The collective pays, big time. Look at history, every empire that crumbled, every civilization that self-destructed, every atrocity committed in the name of purity or progress. What was it? A failure of introspection, a refusal to acknowledge the monster in the mirror, a projection of collective shadow onto an external other to be conquered, purged, eliminated. It's the oldest story. It repeats, always. Because the fundamental human condition, the choice to embrace or deny the totality of self, remains. Do you see it now? The profound implications of your own internal work? It's not selfish. It's revolutionary. To heal yourself is to send ripples of healing into the world. To become conscious is to raise the collective consciousness. To integrate your shadow is to dim the shadow of humanity, just a little. It's the ultimate act of courage. It's the only way forward, the only way out. Every single conscious choice you make to confront your inner landscape, to metabolize your own darkness, is a blow against the forces of ignorance and division that plague this planet. One person, One profound shift, one world subtly, imperceptibly transformed. It's a tiny spark, but sparks ignite fires. And this world, it desperately needs a cleansing fire, not of destruction, but of truth. Your truth, the truth of your totality. This isn't an easy path, it's the hardest. You will be stripped bare, you will feel vulnerable, you will question everything. But on the other side, there is an integrity, a groundedness, a peace that the external world cannot disrupt, a wisdom that no book can teach. You become unshakable, you become sovereign, you become you, truly, authentically. Finally, no more running, no more hiding, just being. That is the goal. That is the promise. And it begins and ends within the crucible of your own soul. The choice, my friend, is yours. Will you answer the call, or will you remain a puppet of the unexamined past? You see, the comfortable lie is that the problem is out there, always. It's the corrupt government, the opposing ideology, the other tribe, the flawed partner. We craft elaborate narratives of external villainy, each one a masterwork of self-deception, designed to keep our gaze firmly fixed away from the terrifying abyss within. We build walls, we draw lines, we scream our outrage. But tell me, who are you really screaming at? That rage, that judgment, that bitter condemnation? It's often just a distorted echo, a twisted reflection of the parts of you that you refuse to own. Your own greed, your own weakness, your own capacity for cruelty, carefully boxed up and labeled with someone else's name. This isn't conjecture. This is the very mechanism of the psychological shadow at play. It's not just a theory. It's the operating system of mass delusion. You deny your own darkness, and it doesn't vanish. Oh no. It finds a new host. It projects. It turns the world into a battleground for your own internal war. Every conflict you witness, every injustice that boils your blood, every them against us narrative, look closer. You'll find the fingerprints of unintegrated shadow everywhere. It is in the politician railing against the moral decay while secretly indulging their own vices. It is in the zealot demanding purity while harboring violent urges. It is in your snap judgment of that stranger, that moment of righteous indignation you feel, not because of what they did, but because they embody something in you you despise. It's uncomfortable, I know. It's supposed to be. But the truth often chafes before it liberates. And what happens if you refuse this mirror? If you turn away, again and again? The shadow doesn't politely retreat. It gathers strength. It festers. It manifests in ways you can't ignore. Chronic anxiety, unexplained depression, cycles of self-sabotage in relationships or career, sudden outbursts of rage you don't understand, a nagging sense of emptiness that no external success can fill. It's the unconscious crying out. It's your soul demanding attention. It's not a punishment. It's a desperate plea for integration. Perhaps you think you're clever, pushing it down, burying it deep, a master of denial. But the unconscious mind? It's far cleverer. It will find a way out, through your dreams, through your body, through your relationships collapsing in familiar patterns. You can run from yourself, but you can never escape. The bills always come due, always. And the longer you wait, the higher the interest. This isn't about becoming good in some saccharine, shallow sense. It's about becoming whole. It's about retrieving the lost pieces of yourself, the disowned aggression, the hidden vulnerabilities, the forbidden desires, the rejected creativity. It's about understanding that these aren't bad parts. They are raw energy, untamed, unconscious. And until you bring them into the light of your awareness, they will control you. They will dictate your reactions. They will pull your strings from the deep. Imagine taking back that power. All of it. The power currently fueling your self-sabotage, your resentment, your external projections. Imagine it channeled, integrated, used consciously. What could you create then? What could you be? This is the work. This is the arduous, terrifying, utterly magnificent journey of self-ownership. It's not a quick fix. It's not a meditation app. It's a lifetime commitment, a constant dialogue with the deepest, most uncomfortable parts of your psyche. Think of it like this. Your shadow isn't some alien entity. It's you. It's the parts of you that society, your family, or your own fears deemed unacceptable. The child who was told not to be angry, the teenager who was shamed for their desires, the adult who learned to hide their ambition or their sensitivity. These parts don't evaporate. They go underground, they wait, they simmer, and they warp. The aggression you repressed becomes passive aggression, or a chronic anger at the world. The sensitivity you buried makes you brittle and reactive. The creativity you stifled turns into a gnawing envy of others' success. This is the dark alchemy of the unexamined life. It takes pure potential and transmutes it into poison. But what if you embraced it? Not to act from it, but to understand it. To say, yes, I have the capacity for anger. I have the capacity for selfishness. I have the capacity for judgment. To look it squarely in the eye, that act of recognition, that simple, brutal honesty, is where the transformation begins. It's where the grip of the unconscious loosens. You take away its power by acknowledging its existence within you. You disarm the monster by realizing it was never truly outside, never truly separate. It was always a part of your own intricate, messy, beautiful totality. And when you do this, something remarkable happens. The need to project diminishes. The other no longer seems quite so terrifying or deserving of your scorn. You begin to see the common humanity, the shared struggle. Even in those you once demonized, your world changes, not because the world itself changed, but because you changed the lens through which you perceive it. You stop contributing to the collective shadow, to the endless cycle of blame and conflict. You become a small, potent beacon of conscious awareness. And that is how empires truly crumble, not by external invasion, but by the quiet, internal revolution of individuals finally seeing themselves. It's the ultimate act of subversive love, and it starts with you, now, not tomorrow, not when you're ready. The moment you decide to stop running, the moment you decide to truly face yourself, the world takes its first conscious breath. Because here's the stark, uncomfortable truth. All the monsters you rail against, all the evils you see festering in the world, they are not out there. Not really. They are the distorted, amplified projections of your own unacknowledged darkness. Your rage at injustice, often the screaming of your own unexpressed powerlessness. Your scorn for another's weakness, a mirror of the fragility you bury deep. You want to change the world? Stop lying to yourself. Stop pointing fingers. The enemy isn't some distant tyrant, some faceless corporation, or even the person who wronged you yesterday. The enemy is the part of you that refuses to look inward. It's the cowardice of self-deception. The world doesn't need more activists screaming at the wind. It needs more individuals brave enough to descend into their own abyss, to face the demons that dance in their own shadows. This isn't philosophy, this is reality. The only war that truly matters is the one waged within. Are you fighting for freedom, or are you still shackled by the ghosts of your own making? Will you continue to feed the shadow with your denial, or will you finally bring it into the light? The choice, as it always has been, is devastatingly simple and profoundly yours. The choice, as it always has been, is devastatingly simple and profoundly yours. You want salvation? You want a better world? Stop waiting for some hero to ride in. Stop praying for a miracle. Look inward. That's the only battleground that matters. Every single war, every injustice, every brutal act you witness outside yourself is merely the theatrical display of a million unexamined inner worlds. That's the verdict. Not a belief, but an iron law of consciousness. You think you're fighting for freedom out there? You're deluding yourself. You're just rearranging the furniture in a burning house if you haven't extinguished the fire within. The true revolution, the only one that has ever mattered, happens in the suffocating silence of your own mind when you finally decide to confront the hidden monstrousness, the pathetic weakness, the boundless rage you deny possessing. This isn't an option. It is the inescapable truth. The external world, your relationships, your very destiny, are merely the shadows cast by the light, or darkness, you project from your own soul. You are either a slave to your unexamined self, or you are free. Nothing else exists. So what will it be? Will you choose to remain a terrified spectator to your own life, perpetually pointing fingers at phantoms? Or will you finally, truly, pick up the sword and face the only enemy that has ever held you captive? The darkest parts of yourself? The choice is yours. The consequences, entirely your own. The choice, as it always has been, is devastatingly simple and profoundly yours. You want salvation? You want a better world? Stop waiting for some hero to ride in. Stop praying for a miracle. Look inward. That's the only battleground that matters. Every single war, every injustice, every brutal act you witness outside yourself is merely the theatrical display of a million unexamined inner worlds. That's the verdict. Not a belief, but an iron law of consciousness. You think you're fighting for freedom out there? You're deluding yourself. You're just rearranging the furniture in a burning house if you haven't extinguished the fire within. The true revolution, the only one that has ever mattered, happens in the suffocating silence of your own mind when you finally decide to confront the hidden monstrousness, the pathetic weakness, the boundless rage you deny possessing. This isn't an option. It is the inescapable truth. The external world, your relationships, your very destiny, are merely the shadows cast by the light or darkness you project from your own soul. You are either a slave to your unexamined self, or you are free. Nothing else exists. So, what will it be? Will you choose to remain a terrified spectator to your own life, perpetually pointing fingers at phantoms, or will you finally, truly, pick up the sword and face the only enemy that has ever held you captive, the darkest parts of yourself? The choice is yours, the consequences entirely your own.